Okay, I have been talking to some people, and I've thought more about how I would like to do this so that it works out better for you and allows me to get on with my life and still do this. Um, and the reason I say a workshop and that I want you to help build your own lawsuit is so that you'll understand it. It's kind of like you're trying to do. Uh, this is going to really mess me up if I can't think of it. I don't know any synonym. Legos. Legos, those little bitty pieces that gets really sharply stuck in your heel. I've had boys, I raised boys and girls, and so I've had little guns stuck in my heels and Barbie high heels stuck in my heel. I've seen everything you can do to a Barbie. Some of it, I'm just glad the girls grew up to be, my best friends, because I was going to have them put in jail. Uh, but I've got off track there with the Barbie thing. Anyway, if you're constructing it and there's something that no one thinks about, and I've thought about for 15 years, what if I had somebody all ready to go? What if I'd filed something for them and they didn't pay a bit of attention, because they think they can't. And I know why they can't. And it's because I've been studying that too. I did most of the same mistakes that you guys are doing now. And I can tell you, I haven't read anything that anybody put together, or I ask them the kind of questions that I want to ask because it's what I do first now, and none of you are doing it all. And you think you are, and you're finding you're telling me, oh, I did this, and then I I did that, and I'm going, that's not how it's even supposed to start. You know, you you were protected from the beginning, from 1787. You've been protected by the Constitution, and the framers did not want a litigious society. They didn't want us all suing each other. Um, and I'm going to quote what this not. This actually is not a quote. This is my uh, version of a quote, and you have civil rights, and a lot of your civil rights have to do with how you're treated in court, and you are seeing it every single day right now. That Donald Trump, somebody, I'm still pissed off about it. Somebody told me to stop being political. What in the world do you think everything that's happening is? It's a distorted view of political. I'm not taking sides. I'm taking the side of the Constitution, and you shall too if you're with me. Um, so one thing I'm going to tell you is that we are going to get away from what you believe the start is and who you think all your players in your play, all the characters on the stage, who they are. But one thing I could say is that Rule 17, and that's Federal Rules of Civil Procedure, FRCP 17. And basically, uh, it says that every person has the right to be sued only by someone who has already proven that they have the right to sue you. Now, I want to say that again. And if you didn't go get a pen and paper, that's because you don't think I'm important. You go get Penn and Teller. I don't know why I said that. Every person, every citizen has the right to be sued only by someone who has already proven, um, with evidence, and the evidence has to be concrete and particularized, and that's a greater and higher burden of proof than beyond reasonable doubt. But there can be no um, case. You don't just get a pile of stuff and write it together and say, I have the right, especially if you're a character that doesn't exist. U.S. Bank Trust National Association is not U.S. Bank National Association, and it's not U.S. Bancorp. So who is it? I'm telling you, it's nobody. And that's who most of you are afraid. You're afraid of a lot of nobodies. Um, and I hope I didn't skip around too much then. But what I'm saying is that what we're doing is someone is just saying, And it's especially scary. I think in judicial foreclosure states, like in Florida, that you're going to get called to court. Well, it's actually easier to take care of, but they're not different or as different as they seem. To me, once there's a wrongful foreclosure, if the people are in the house, it's all the same. We're starting over. And as dumb as it seems, and it is dumb, and as illegal as it seems, it is illegal, and as unconstitutional it seems, in a non-judicial foreclosure state, they can foreclose on you without telling anyone the reason. That's what it's all about. And I've been looking for years for the act. What made the first state say, well, we just don't really want to go to court. We just kind of want to foreclose on them. And it turns out I did figure it out, and it was the Great Depression. And at that time, people were walking away from houses. They're not trying to keep them. They're just walking away. And so the bank wants to get them quickly. And then, like Reagan once said, once you start something, an agency or an act, and it's temporary, you can't ever get rid of it. So we have something that was made for the Great Depression, and we don't have those problems. And so what we have is a non-judicial foreclosure, and anybody that wants to just make it up, they can say they sent you a notice. I can't tell you how many people have gotten or have been told in court that they sent a notice, and there's no notice, and now I'm seeing that the courts are saying certified, and there's reasons for that. And I just had missed them before because I didn't see them as often. And that's how it should be. A notice has to be signed by you or you didn't get it. If somebody says I served them in their house or I served them in their yard, prove it. What if I say, oh, no, you didn't? And by the way, it's still good. If you sent it by U.S. mail, it's still good. Doesn't make any sense. But that carrying it up and saying you handed it to them or that you posted it on their back window, that doesn't work. But I shouldn't even talk about it because basically, if there's not a beginning of a case, if they just do the non-judicial foreclosure, then what's happened is, and this is only in non-judicial foreclosure states, there's 26 non-judicial foreclosure states. 2 of them, best I can figure, maybe 3, Maryland, Michigan, and Minnesota are doing a non-judicial foreclosure with a mortgage instead of a deed of trust, and I don't even want to explain that to you. That's one of the things that we would cover, that I will cover in a workshop. So in a workshop, I'm going to say things like, I want to start right out with speak English to whoever those girls are. That's for me, though. Okay, in your case, if you're looking at this, you've got a case, a friend's got a case, and you think you got it all going together. Who's the foreclosing party? Because what I'm finding, I've won 14 in a row, and the longest, hardest one I've ever done is the one I'm doing now. It is not hard because it's clever. It isn't clever, it's stupid. I've got a situation where I just jerked a judge out of his state judge, his comfortable judge seat, and took him to federal court the same day that he ruled wrong after we had sent him the demand, and here's the demand. We are challenging standing and subject matter jurisdiction. There's 2 things that start a case. A case doesn't exist until in a judicial court until the foreclosing party files their complaint, petition, lawsuit. I say lawsuit a lot, but let's say complaint. I think most of you are used to that. And this is in federal court, so it is a complaint. But this is unlawful detainer in Missouri, which seems to be the worst possible unlawful detainer because it says you can't argue possession, ownership, payment, these guys are frauds? Nothing. It says that you have to go with whatever the trustee's deed is. The trustee is a secret person that foreclosed for them, and that's where the cover up starts because they're not the foreclosing party. And you can have, we had like at least 12 characters. Everyone but Mickey Mouse, the Goofy was there, several Goofies. Um, and the odd thing about this one is that, we had right now, the one that I see a lot, and I bet you a lot of you would raise your hands if I could see them, New Res, and New Res and Shell Point. But it isn't New Res and Shell Point. Fact is, New Res is actually SLS, and that's one that goes back to my early beginnings. Before that, it was Specialized Loan Servicing. So you have Specialized Loan Service, formerly known as, and this is New Res, formerly known as Specialized Lending Services, SLS, New Res LLC, and New Res LLC DBA, doing business as Shell Point. That's all one entity. They've just changed their names because they got in lawsuits. These guys do lose sometimes. Not usually like I'm doing it, like where you could actually grind it out and forever I searched for a template. How do you do this the same every time? I am doing it the same every time now, but it was hard to figure out. So anyway, who's the foreclosing party? Well, the foreclosing party has to say who they are. That's who initiates the lawsuit. So in a judicial foreclosure, they have to say that. They have to say this: I have an injury in fact. We have suffered an injury in fact. And we have included in our complaint against the school marm tied to the railroad track borrower, we have provided concrete and particularized evidence that the school marm, that we suffered an injury. And the only injury that a bank or lender, a real lender, can suffer is money that you promise to pay on a note, and you will not see a note anymore. That's another thing we're going to learn is they're using assignments of deeds of trust in non-judicial foreclosure, except for Maryland, Michigan, and Minnesota. And what the hell is that all about? I wish I had made that joke. I can't remember what I was talking about. Okay, so we have to begin at the beginning. They have to say in the complaint, in a judicial foreclosure state, we've suffered an injury in fact, or an injury, which is a claim. Claim isn't the same as a fact. In fact, a claim can't even be used, because they would have stated a claim for which relief can't be given. And they will say that in your case sooner or later because they have nothing they can say without committing perjury, and then perjury becomes real. They're playing a game. So they have to say that they have suffered an injury. That injury is a certain amount of money, and it was in a note, and they loaned the money. So they're the lender. That's how it was always supposed to be. I've never seen it. ever. It's never the lender that was on your note, but you haven't seen a note either. It used to be they used to say, well, and they still do some. Our attorney has the note in its safe because it's in a safe in the floor of our office. It's safe for you, but why is it there? You need it here. But if they bring it, it will be a fake. I've never seen a really true copy. And so now that's why they're doing the assignments of the mortgage in the case of the judicial foreclosure. Okay, they have to prove that they now own your debt. It isn't about the note. The note represents your debt, and it represents your remaining debt. If you got a loan in 2007 and you're still fighting it, and you've paid most of the time, you've got a lot of equity. They're not giving you the equity. They're not giving anybody the equity. These are the things I think about first. Starting with telling that girl I know English. and that's for you guys to decide if this is English or not. Uh, uh, okay, so they have to say they were injured. Without an injury, you don't get into a case. They can't. They don't have a case. There is no case right now in your case. There is none because nowhere have they said in the original writing they did. So it's in their complaint in a judicial setting. In a non-judicial setting, they did it, and now they've got your house, and you have to sue them to get it back. And your state said that was constitutional. I've read Missouri's version. And it's the dumbest thing I've ever read. No, it's not. It's our unlawful detainer is the dumbest thing. Okay, so it's the beginning, and I'm asking who's your foreclosing party, and you're going to tell me New Res and Shell Point, which is a doing business as, means it's a fictitious name that they signed and paid money for at the Secretary of State so they could use it. Uh, and so Shell Point is New Res. That's it. And New Res is never going to say that they suffered a claim. They're going to say they're the servicer, and a servicer, the only thing they're supposed to do is send you a little coupon. We all paid on little coupons. It's one of my favorite articles. Why did we do that? Where was the proof that we owed them? Because they, with me on my house, it was a GMAC mortgage, but that's not who was on my loan. It was Lendtech Mortgage Funding, my company. That's who did the loan. How did that happen to me? How did they do this? And they did it with unlawful detainer. You couldn't argue it. And what I've just done is, well, let's go on a little more. Okay, so first they have to say they have an injury, and they have to prove it with concrete, particularized evidence. It has to happen at the beginning because this really represents standing. And standing means that you have a ticket to the show. You go up and hand it to the guy, and he looks at it, and the ticket to the show is the claim of standing and the concrete and particularized proof that you have an injury, and the same burden of proof that they can fairly trace the injury to you or the school marm on the railroad tracks. So you're being told that here's the case that started, and the judge starts doing hearings. Sue him right then, that moment. And the reason is he just deprived you of your civil rights. You have a civil right to not be sued unless someone has already proven the right to sue you. And that is very difficult if, in fact, they don't own your debt, or let's call it your remaining debt, because your debt is a certain amount on the first day. This probably doesn't sound like English. Okay, this is what I want to go through one little piece at a time over less than a month, maybe 2 or 3 classes, and then you'll send them in, just email them. We'll look through what you said the answer was, and it won't be me by myself. I need more people. Man, I've got some pretty smart college kids. Well, they're not college kids anymore. They're out of college. They're doing other great things. So we're going to look at it and send it back and say, here's how we see it. Okay, and we'll do that 2 or 3 times. Okay, and here's another question is, why do you think it's your burden to prove you are a victim of fraud? Because that's what you're doing. You're thinking, if you're looking up, I'm being defrauded, I need to prove they're committing fraud against me. No. You have no burden whatsoever to fess up to anything. All you're supposed to say is, I'm not in default with anybody that's made a claim. And what you're going to have now, today, there is no claim of injury. Okay, this comes from the constitutional doctrine of cases and controversies. A judge can't take on a case unless there's real evidence, provable evidence from both sides. But your evidence is you have a deed to your house. And these guys don't have anything, nor have they said they do, and they never will. They will never say, we have suffered injury in fact. They're going to say, you have stated a claim for which relief cannot be given. That's going to be it. And if you do end up with a foreclosing party, they're going to come 3 months later than everybody else. It's part of the plan. It's also an extremely stupid plan, and yet it works over and over. So I dreamed up, and this is going to be starting in 2015. I decided that we had to, since this was happening, I knew it was happening. I didn't know what to do about it. I tried to sue the judge in the case we were in. You can't do it because that judge will deny it. What? What kind of stupid rule is that? Okay, so what we did was we knew, and this is happening right now. This is happening right now. I knew that the judge for unlawful detainer had done this before. He is one of the ones that's been taking the bribes. He's the one that needed a boat, and he's done it way more than one time because I worded everything that I have told you, only it wasn't scattered like that. It was all in a line. You're going to do this, and you are not going to act. And it was U.S. Bank Trust National Association, which the last it existed was as a trustee for a remake trust or a mortgage-backed security. Don't even try to remember any of that. In fact, I'll keep telling you, we're not going to get into that because no one has said they have an injury. Till someone says they have an injury, there is no case, and we're not going to go there. And we're going to keep going. Okay, so now we have a federal judge, and at a good time because Trump, honestly, as dumb as that sucker is, he literally is on the edge of creating a dictatorship. And that sounds absurd. And if you're young, it's not that weird. If you're older, my age, no one ever contemplated that ever happening in a billion years. And what the Supreme Court did is like they're just common criminals. And here, all my life, I thought they were, living on top of a cloud and singing with angels. I mean, that's how much we revered them. They're counting on our belief in our own system, and they're the ones tearing it down right now. So what's happened is the lowest federal court is the district federal court, and that's where you start your lawsuit. And there's like two in Missouri, Eastern and Western. Some states, like California's got 4. Some states have 1. Mississippi has 1. It's a fairly small state geographically, not a lot of people, and most of them can't read, and they're Trump voters. Okay, so I won't go there. I want to go, let's go to court. Let's go to federal court. And I remember it being $805. It's $405, and you don't have to pay to serve the defendants of yours that you're saying, are trying to foreclose on you without ever having proved an injury. There has to be proof of an injury. That's the basis. That's the baseline. That's the bottom pillar of democracy. It's called due process. That's the 5th and the 14th Amendment. I'm just sticking to that, nothing else. But I'm working with speed, and I'm working with not falling for the character. Mickey Mouse, you meet Mickey Mouse at Disneyland. That's your case, Disneyland, and there's Mickey Mouse, and he's talking to you. That's really Ernie, a guy that worked over at the bar in Orlando, and they fired him, and he went over to Disneyland. He got a job being Mickey Mouse. So it's a costume. New Res is a costume. There's no one in there. And there's no one in U.S. Bank N.A. I saw Deutsche Bank National Trust Company is coming back. They were just resting, and they don't exist. So you're going to have people that don't exist, and you have no one that's going to write with suffered injury in fact. And this judge, an unlawful detainer, had nothing. The U.S. Bank N.A. isn't real, so how did they sign anything? They did have an attorney, and the attorney said This is what he said. U.S. Bank N.A., U.S. Bank Trust National Association is the owner, and the uh, um, the parties to the contract, the note, have been in default, which was not true, by the way. Western or Wells Fargo ended up in this deal doing a modification at one point, and then they're gone. I don't know where they came from. I don't know where they went. I don't have a name. I don't have a last name. My clients didn't even know to ask it. They thought it was, Wells Fargo. Of course, it wasn't Wells Fargo. I don't, you know, if it was, it wasn't the Wells Fargo that you go into that bank. It's like somebody down in their dungeon. Um, Again, this is why we're doing the class. Is that I'm going to be asking you to put like we're going to have that actual case, and I'm going to have this is what we knew. Now here's the comments. Tell me what everybody is there for, and tell me who could be the foreclosing party. That's just one thing. And then we'll go to another and another, and you'll be putting that in, and then we'll be helping you. We'll be giving you some reasons why this one can't, this one can't, this one can't. And then, okay, well, what do we do? Because we know they're breaking the law. So we sued the state judge, and and what he did was he even took it into review. We were saying, you're going to do this, you're going to break the Constitution, and we're going to sue you for deprivation of civil rights. And that's what everything is based on, deprivation of civil rights. Um, and that's what we told him. We said, and when you do that, here is the repercussion. Here's what we're going to do. And he even took it under advisement, like he was tricking us again, but his ego, he couldn't stand it. He then ruled to give their home, $750,000 home, to U.S. Bank, National Association, Trust National Association, give them back their house. Use the word back. Well, they never had it. They also came into this 4 months later than it all started, just out of nowhere. We have ownership, and you're going to give us the house. And then he ruled on it. I'd already written, this is you have to make them as uncomfortable as we are. So you have to do something mean, and real mean, because they're good. They're trying to take your house. And maybe you owe money somewhere, but it isn't to these guys. You can't be made to give your house to someone who has not got any ownership in your debt. It's somebody else. You're probably never going to find them. The fact is, I'm saying it's 100%. You'll never find them. I never have, not once. I've lost a whole bunch of times for people. A win in my early days was to keep in their house for like 5 years after their eviction. That's what I was good at. Stall. But stall's no good. We want to win. We want to win fast. So, what let's see. Oh, did I say this part? Is that if I'm teaching you to put it together and you understand it well enough that we get to the part where we file and you just let me do it. Everyone just lets me do it. They don't want any part of it, just do it. So I file it. What if I die? What if I driving home and I get hit by a truck? You won't know what to do. That's what hit me. Is that I want you to be able to finish this. And if I do more people at a time, then I don't have to charge as much money. But we can still, I'm not going to do this deal where you buy a template from somebody, then they don't even help you fill it out. And I know a guy, he's been trying to make friends with me for like 12 years. I think it is that long. And I don't like what he does. He sells like for $2,000, he'll sell you a lawsuit. All you do is fill it out and turn it in. And if you ask him to help you, he says, well, I can't do that. You took the $2,000, why aren't you going to help me? By the way, there's nothing wrong with what I'm doing. I'm not being an attorney. I'm being a real estate broker and a mortgage company broker. I can tell you whatever I want to tell you about documents. I've testified in federal court and state court, both as an expert witness on mortgage documents. Um, and, and I've already just talked about what's the difference between what I was doing and what I'm doing today. Now, one thing that's just happened just in the last few days. I talked to a group of people. So there are a lot of you that are getting together in groups. And I started thinking that would even be better. People that were already talking to each other and trying to solve it, being told what I think they should do and what I think is right. And if you don't think it's right, don't join in. Don't do anything. Do something else. But I am right. I mean, I am at 14 and a half in a row. And this one is too easy, but it's hard because then, this what happened the judge went ahead and ruled, even though U.S. Bank N.A. never said that they had suffered an injury. They never said they were losing money because they gave money to that note, and then they bought it or whatever. They never said they bought. They said they bought it at, and this is the big trick. East Plains Corporation was a successor trustee. I'm not going to try to explain that now. That's another one. I'm already going way over what I was going to try to do. East Plains Corporation is a successor trustee, and they made out a trustee's deed, gave it to U.S. Bank, and U.S. Bank foreclosed on that. How did they do that? If U.S. Bank never said they were harmed or had any interest, they were a stranger to the note, a stranger to the contract, and then so East Plains gives them a trustee's deed after the non-judicial Missouri foreclosure. I'm from Missouri, I know. How did that happen? That is a forged deed of trust. I mean, it's the ownership that they're counting on, that this judge is counting on. That's their whole deal. Then I'm going to tell you the best part of this. We're at the end, and so what we did is that the moment he ruled on it, I was already headed we're in the Western Division of the Missouri Western Division District Court, Federal District Court. They put us in Jeff City because of the zip code that put us in that's where they wanted us. They can do whatever they want there, and I had it filed the next day. This judge went wild and evicted them and took all their stuff. And it's a huge house, $750,000 house, and there were a lot of family members in there, and there was a young woman who has a 3-year-old child, and she also had another baby, a baby girl died, and her ashes are in an urn. The sheriff's office wouldn't let her take that out of the house. They took everything out of the house. I've never even heard of it. This is self-help eviction. It goes back to 1820, in Missouri. So many people from the East Coast or some of the places they're older, and they're always the same. And he made it so much, he got so mad. Did I make him uncomfortable? Yes. Did he do terrible things to the people? Yeah, he has. Are there lots of damages in that? If we can figure out who's got the money, yeah, I think we've got it figured out. So I'm going to be working on it for a while. We're going to go ahead and start the classes because I got to finish that one because that's the one that you're learning off of. And we're going to use parts of that, and we'll say, okay, here's our question. It's for you. Here's all your people that you say you have on the detailed form that you sent. And I'd like for you to go ahead and send another one, although we're tracking those right now, getting ready to try to send them back to you. And but we may add some things to it tomorrow. After tomorrow, I would say, it's time to send it back. And also, I was going to say, I've been talking to some groups, and they're like one had 40 people in it, but I actually had 10 people talking to me. I did it on a whim. I've got so many people wanting me to talk to them. It really kind of wasn't fair, except I wanted to learn something. I think that if you're in a group of, say, 10 or 12 or 100, we should do them all at the same time because you guys are already used to asking each other questions. You already trust you, and you already know who's the ones that's getting it in one line better and who's getting something else better. I think it might be better to know the people in your group, and so you can actually talk about it. So we're talking about maybe having 4 classes, doing a workshop, then having it ready to go. And if there's not very many people, then we'll make it where you can call me. If there's hundreds, and I don't think there will be, um, then that might be limited. But we'll still be communicating. We'll still be saying, here's what you ought to do. Here's where you ought to go. Here's why we're saying it. We'll give you the reasoning for it. But you started filling it out, and that you'll be getting the reasoning as you fill it out, and then you'll help decide if you have your own group, like what nights do you do it anyway? What days do you do it? What nights? And I'm going to try to do it if I can. If it gets me too much work, I can tell you that I'm not as healthy as I used to be, and I've also got some things I've got to do, and I'm getting where I've got to take care of my family. I'm old enough that that's now a reality. And so I'm going to do this if I can. Now, how much? And I'm thinking, you know, if there's 10 people, $700 for the first month, 500 the second month, maybe none after that. We'll talk it over. If I can make money off of YouTube, then it's our money. We'll divvy it up as we can, trying to help as many people because there's a lot of people that answer the question, do you have any money? No. I don't know what to do with that anymore. I used to just put up my money. I've spent something like $330,000. Now that's over 15 years. It's still a lot of money. And I always thought I was 60 days away from starting to beat these guys like I am now. I mean, I can tell you, I know what's going to happen next. I know who's going to do it. They can lengthen it, but they can't win. I mean, I have not seen anyone say, we have suffered an injury in fact, and here's the concrete particularized proof, which proves that the injury is real, and it also can demonstrate that we can fairly trace it to you, the borrower in your case, that you're the ones that harmed them. I've never seen anyone write it down. So how do they win? They just were ruling, and nobody thought they could stop them. And I started suing judges in 2012. By 2017, I'd done, mostly mine, but I've got 5 or 6 judges I'm going to go back and visit, and I can't hardly wait. So that probably leaves a place for questions. Now, I need for you to subscribe to this channel. This is if you want to do that program. To like as many videos as you can like. And let's get this up to where I'm almost to 1,000 subscribers. At that point, we can say, oh, we want to be able to make money. We want to be part of that program. And it's ad money. It's free. I mean, you're just signing your name, and you're not. If you're watching me, you like me, okay, and you probably subscribe. But tell other people to do it. If we can get the number up, I've watched these guys go from doing YouTube videos in their closets, to having 1 million subscribers, and they're wearing better clothes, they're going on vacations, and they used to be in the closet. So we need to try to do that, get money, and then make it even cheaper. But I don't know that if we're not doing much by the 3rd month, and so let's say then you're sitting at $1,200, that'd be pretty, almost every client I have has spent at least, $1,700 a month for 3 months on an attorney that did nothing. And I can't do this without help. I have to have help now. I had it for 22 years. It was my wife, and she's gone. And I can't do it myself. I can't take care of I couldn't do more than 2 or 3 And if I do 2 or 3 cases, and even if I charge more for it, I can't make it the money I can in my own business, and it isn't worth it. You know, I'd rather, and I don't want to stop helping people. So I'm going to say it's probably going to be like 700, then 500. If you can't do it at all, I don't know yet. I will try to think of something. I will say that I will not give up on you. I'll try to figure out a way. But if you've got money, if you can do 1,200, 700 the first month, then by then we'll do at least 2 things, and we will have looked at it. We'll tell you what we got. Don't pay the second one if you're not happy. Just don't pay it. I think you will be. I am jazzed up that I do know everything is happening around me, and it isn't fun, but it's so much better than losing, 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 and people saying thank you for keeping our house as long as you did. You repaired us, and man, I wanted to say we won, and I'm saying it now, and uh, I'm waiting for the Macy's balloons going by on confetti. Don't get it, and I feel like you guys are probably this is going to be too long. You're not even going to get to the end there. Get to the end and then subscribe, like. Let's get this up and see if YouTube, who can make enough money. There's 30 million bad wrongful foreclosures done exactly this way. They haven't changed at all. Same nation stars around again. I mean, a lot of nation stars are around again. I can't even believe I'm seeing them again. I've beaten Nation Star back when I didn't win very often. I've beaten them. I beat the successor trustee in the deal I did now. Same guys. I beat them twice, 2013, 2014. But I didn't, I still wasn't winning. Like now, I think that we can maybe start taking that part of the country back. Well, how is this not as important as anything else that we're doing right now? It was all along. This is because of the same problems that Trump's bringing. That everybody that's stacking in voting where it's stupid. You wonder why they're doing it. How do they believe it? It's because they're getting $500,000. Elon Musk gave $270 million to Donald Trump for his campaign to win as president. If he wanted to bribe the Senate $1 million each, and there's only 100 senators, that's only 100 million. That's less than half of what he gave Trump. To go, that would have closed the election. If anybody wonders, it wasn't anywhere near 1%. It was like 0.4%. And that's all I'd say now. I want to start it right away. I've got people that are trying to help me, and they've got other things they're doing, and I don't want to be stalled anymore. So it's you and me, and I do have some smart young people, and they don't need to be really technical, because the story I just told you isn't about, oh my God, this is complicated. It's did they write down that they'd suffered a loss, that they had suffered an injury. And the injury is that they've lost money because you're not cooperating, and you owe the money, and you said you would pay it to them. They won't write that down. It ain't going to happen. Okay, that's it. I'm going to do this sneaky. I've got a producer deal. And if I can just, oh, look, my shoulder didn't hardly move.